Hello and welcome to Behind the Title, a video series exploring the unique career paths and possibilities across media monks and the people behind them. My name is Kayla Gravel, Senior Manager of the Global Talent Development Team, and with me today we have Elly Hyam-Hobden, Data Director of Project Management for the APAC region based in Sydney, Australia. Back in 2017, Elly started at Mighty Hive as account manager as employee number 9, working with MYOB in Melbourne, specifically on programmatic in-housing. Over the next few years, she held senior account manager and team lead roles, working with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation on digital transformation. And at the start of this year, Elly made the switch from account team to data team, where she is in her current role as data director of project management for the APAC region. Welcome to Behind the Title, Elly.
Thanks.
So I will start out by asking this first question. If I were 10 years old, how would you describe to me what you do?
I would say that I work for a business focused in digital data and media services. So we work with a really broad range of clients working on improving their marketing systems and their data systems, I think.
Can you walk me a bit more through your career journey? What made you decide that you wanted to make the switch to your current role in data?
Prior to this, I had 2 roles I think were really important. So I worked actually in a school of all places. I was a teaching assistant, which is sort of where I learned the basis of training techniques, basically, and kind of got an inkling for how much I enjoyed that type of work. So whether it's, kids in a school environment or clients sitting behind a desk, having some knowledge and being able to talk people through that knowledge in a clear and consistent way where you're able to help them, for the kids improve their lives or for the clients improve their job situation. So after that, I moved into a recruitment role where I was focusing in on digital recruitment services in Sydney. So I did that for a couple of years. So I was sort of recruiting for jobs like my own, and I made a lucky into what was then Mighty Hive, a very small office in Sydney, sort of on the basis of being a good account manager. Didn't really know much about, the actual intricacies of the digital environment or programmatic or search or data or anything like that. But I kind of quickly learnt it. So stayed within that account management team and made the switch to the data team January of this year, which has been a really exciting move for me and one that I've really enjoyed.
Can you tell me about something cool that you've worked on lately?
So there's probably, my role is split. It's on client work, some of it, and then some of it is improving organizational processes. So from a client perspective, I work on Kia, who's an automotive client based out of Korea. We do services from Australia, Singapore, Korea, that we kind of run a region-wide team. I came onto the client in February of this year and spent a fair bit of time improving the project delivery and project management practices. A lot of that time was spent kind of ensuring that the regional team was comfortable working within the Jira environment, a tool that we're using to varying degrees of success across the region. But I'm quite proud of the way that the team is really kind of hooked into using that tool for Kia. From an internal perspective, we're working on a few things to improve process delivery across the organisation. So the first is kind of baseline training for when team members on board to the data and digital media team, what to expect from working on projects to working within that Jira environment, which we've just kind of finalised part 1 and part 2 of the group training, which has been really fun. Yeah, so I think those would be 2 things that I've enjoyed working on recently.
Very cool. And I think this will end our last of these professional questions here. If you could give one piece of advice to someone who is just starting their career in this field, what would it be?
Yeah, it's a good question. I always found success saying yes to things. So I would say don't be afraid to get involved with something that's outside of your comfort zone and be comfortable in the chance that you may fail at that. And failure is just a chance to learn. So you might try something within your career and kind of go, okay, I want to work on that project. I want to get involved. And you might get halfway through and say, oh my God, I love this. I've learned so much. I've learned a new skill. I've worked with some new people. This is something that I want to incorporate into my role ongoing. Or you might get to the situation where you say, actually, that really wasn't for me. Both of those situations are equally as valuable as one another. So say yes, I think, and be comfortable with failure.
Very good. Well, this next part of this interview is what we like to call rapid fire Q&A. So I will ask you a number of questions so we can get to know Elly behind the title. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. When you were a kid, what was your dream job?
Prime Minister. That's very nerdy, but true.
If you were not a data director, what profession would you like to attempt?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed being in education. So I would probably either do that or go and do something within the government. I think probably if you speak to me in 20 years, I'll be in an industry that is associated with either might even be a local council or state or federal government. I think that would be what I would do if I wasn't doing this, and may even end up there in a few years.
What was your first job?
Another good question. I actually worked in a takeaway shop.
What advice would you give your young self?
I think just enjoy each of the jobs that you're in. I think sometimes you get caught up in the stress a little bit, but it's important to make sure that you're enjoying every day and finding the best parts of the jobs best parts of the role and the jobs that you're in.
If you could be any animal, what would it be?
Probably a bird, because I would enjoy the feeling of flying? I'd like to see whether I would enjoy the feeling of flying, I guess.
What is one place you would tell everyone to explore if they visited your city?
Well, it's not in the city, but I'm actually not from Sydney. I'm from a town that's a couple of hours south of Sydney called Wollongong. So I would suggest that everybody goes down to Wollongong and hangs out by the beach.
Where did you go on your last vacation?
New Zealand, I think, was my last proper vacation. So South Island of New Zealand, doing a few hikes and enjoying the scenery.
Do you have a book or podcast you would recommend to anyone?
Yeah, I love podcasts. I would say The Old Faithful is a podcast called Desert Island Discs, which is a BBC podcast where they interview kind of celebrities or just random people and ask what 5 songs they would take to a desert island. And they kind of talk through what the song is, what it means to them, and how it's played a part in their lives. It's a great podcast.
What Slack reaction is your favorite?
Fire, definitely fire.
What is the first concert you ever attended?
Probably Lady Gaga.
And reflecting on your career journey thus far, how would you describe it in 1 to 3 words?
Lots of fun.
And with that, I will close with this last question. Is there anything you can tell us about what's next for you personally or professionally?
I'm sort of still recently in this role, so I think it's probably kicking goals within Australia and within the region and improving kind of the working environment and our delivery practices for the data and digital media organisation.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Elly, for coming on to Behind the Title. It has been wonderful getting to interview you.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Thanks. And stay tuned for the next Behind the Title interview coming to you all soon.